there are a handful of Famicom games that have gotten a really positive reputation outside of Japan, despite the game never getting ported to the NES. Bananan Ouji no Daibouken is not one of them. Besides getting a relatively limited release in Germany, there's one barrier to entry that I think prevented this platformer from really getting any attention. Bananan no Ouji no Daibouken is based on a comic so obscure I can't find any images of it. It was published in a magazine mainly known for publishing comics based on video games, so it might have been intended to tie into the game right from the start. The plot of the game is that the Banana Kingdom's treasures have all been stolen by the evil King K. Rool. Naturally, it's the duty of the prince to recover all of those treasures, and thus win the hand of the fair Princess Peach. I didn't make up that last part. In fact, that's her. That's Princess Peach right there. You'll have to make your way through 7 islands, each having 3 stages. On each stage, A jumps and B swings your sword. But you have a few other big tricks. Holding down and hitting A will make you slide. Not always the best thing to do because you don't have any control over where you stop. Holding down and pressing B will plant a tree. And besides using that tree to climb up and reach high places, if you jump off the tree, you'll spin in the air and will damage enemies that you collide with. It's actually a very handy move, even against bosses. Enemies that you defeat with your sword will drop something, and you have to catch the item they drop, otherwise it'll just fall off the screen. The rings are currency. They're used in the many shops you'll find across the islands. The bananas will recover your health, and the angels make you invincible for a few seconds. It's a very short period of invincibility, but because a lot of them drop, it's possible to keep chaining them. Collecting the flower will make the plant that you grow get a little bit taller. There's also a few power-ups like that which can only be found in chests. Your grandfather will fly above your head, collecting items and damaging enemies. If you have him, and you hold down up and then press down, he'll start orbiting the prince instead. Chests can also contain extra lives. Something you're going to notice in Bananan Ouji no Daibouken is that a lot of the placement of items on the stages are unfair. You will not be able to collect a lot of items without dying. Rings are often placed in ways that following them to collect them will kill you. In fact, I'd say that's the biggest problem with this game. The level design is often unfair. Falling bricks, for example, run on a timer, but the timer doesn't reset when you step off of them, and so you could find yourself plunging downward unexpectedly. And there are quite a few blind jumps where you are forced to jump out into nothingness, hoping that there's a platform below you. And sometimes there isn't. On this stage you have to cling to ladders that you jump between, but you fall a short distance even after you've grabbed them. And so I found this section to be incredibly difficult. There's a bit of stiffness in the prince's movements. And while it isn't horrible or something you couldn't get used to, it's just not quite as smooth as you'd like. Behind the doors that you'll find scattered around, or at the end of stages, you'll find a few different shops. Princess Peach always restores your health for free, while the Bunny Girl runs a casino where you can bet 20 rings at a time. At the weapons shop you can switch out your sword. There's 16 different swords in the game, and it's really not worth breaking them down individually, since they mainly differ on what shoots out the end. Good rule of thumb, buy the most expensive one and stick with it. You can find vending machines where you could buy a little bit of health, or a mystery item, which could be another sword. And then there's this guy, who's probably the most important character in the game. He's how you reach the actual ending of the game. Pay him 30 rings and he'll warp you to a board game. And here you roll and move trying to reach the boss. If you land on a number, you have to answer that number of trivia questions before you can go on. Fail to answer and you get sent back. You also get sent back if you land on the pepper, but the other icons let you play a scratch-off game where if you match 3 of that symbol, you'll get a power-up that'll help you during the board game. Get to the boss and answer all of the questions there, and you recover one of the kingdom's 3 treasures. So there's 3 of these board game maps that you have to complete in order to get the actual ending. Fortunately for anyone who doesn't speak Japanese, the questions always appear in the exact same order, so it's not that difficult to follow a guide in order to complete things. I can't really say that Bananan Ouji no Daibouken was popular in Japan, but it definitely has a small following. I found several people who pointed to it as one of the hidden gems of the Famicom. I myself found it to be good, but not outstanding. A solid B-tier game. I appreciated that the level design had a bit of complexity to it, since a lot of these platformers that I've been playing lately have had some pretty bland level design. But the control scheme just isn't quite as good as you'd like. It sometimes feels like there's a momentary pause in your attacks and jumps, and the game requires a lot of precision, so that stiff feeling winds up being a bit of a problem. Still, it's a solid, enjoyable game. It's just that you'd likely find something else that you'd want to play before it.